Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's your boy, the nonprofit sector connector. Tommy D is in the attic. That's not my song, but maybe I should make up a new song. So look, every single week on a Friday morning, I get a visitor in the attic. And it's so lonely up here in the attic. So it's nice when people come visit me. Every week, I have a leader of a nonprofit organization that joins me to do two things: tell their story, and then it's my job to help them amplify their message. And look, we're heading into like 60 episodes of something that was just an idea in my head. It was just something that I said, I want to make an impact on this sector that makes an impact on so many other people. And the way I know how to do it is, first of all, I didn't know how to do a radio show or anything like that, but I knew I wanted to talk to people. I knew I wanted to bring them on and have them tell their story. And that's what we do. Every week, we talk to another leader of a nonprofit organization. There's a couple things I just want to point out that you should be aware of right now. If you are connected to a nonprofit organization that does any work in the 5 boroughs of New York City, it is today's February 11th, 2022. Actually, 2 times 11 is 22. So that's kind of fun to play with the numbers today. See, I just came up with that, Sarina, as I was looking down at the camera. Pretty good, right? So I'm like a math magician. So if you are listening to this currently and you sit on the board of, work for a nonprofit that serves people in the 5 boroughs of New York City, go to nycimagineawards.com and fill out the application form. If you want more information about that, send me a note, Tommy D at Philanthropy and Phocus.com, and Phocus is Phocus. Or follow me on TikTok and Instagram, TommyD.NYC. The Imagine Awards is the 2nd annual Imagine Awards in New York City. It's the 10th anniversary out here on Long Island. If you're listening to this sometime in the future, well, then just disregard the last 90 seconds and let's get into today's conversation about what's going on. So I'm the nonprofit sector connector. Kind of a bold statement. I guess I should shut off my email again too. I did that the other day. I'm the connector. That's probably a connection coming in. That's what's going on. I don't get where I am without people making introductions for me. And my buddy Fred Taffer introduced me to Sarina DiBianca. So today we both have 2 capital letters in our last name. Sarina has a capital D and a capital B, and I have a capital D and a capital M. And because I've been Tommy D since I'm like 2 years old. So today it's Sarina D, if you'll allow me to, and Tommy D in the attic. Is that okay? All right, good. All right. So look, what do we do on this show every week? We find out about organizations. We find out about the history of the leader, the history of the organization, the impact the organization is making, the programs. And my favorite part, I don't know if I have a favorite part, but I think what really gets me juiced is the connections piece. Who do they need to know? Who are they collaborating with? And we know there's some professional athletic stuff going on we're going to talk about today, but who are they currently collaborating with? Who do they want to collaborate with? And who may I or people in other parts of my network connect with? And it's funny, we don't have to talk about it now, but I had invited Sarina to a networking event, and she connected with another friend of mine, and that's going to turn into some connection. And that's what it's all about. So like, this is the stuff. And that's like happening like in real time. Shout out to Lisa. I'll see you later on, but it's funny. That's how this all works. So we were talking about that in the virtual green room. All right, Sarina, I'm going to read a little bit of background, tiny bit, because I don't want to tell your story. I don't want anybody else to tell my story. I don't want to tell your story, but I will give up just to kind of frame this a little bit. The organization was started 26 years ago in the midst of the AIDS pandemic to help the mind, body, and spiritual wellness of those affected by HIV and AIDS. So I'm going to read this off the website. Okay. Founded in 1995 by Sister Bernadette Canary, which I might have butchered your name. Sorry, sister.
Canary.
Can I say it again?
Canary.
Look, half my family's Irish, sister, so my apologies. I send you love. I'm a Catholic schoolboy. Story for another day. And Father Don Riley, Siloam, right?
No, Siloam.
Siloam. I told you this today. So that's Sarina. She's the executive director. Let's dive into this conversation, because I told you the other day when we were talking that I had to Google the pronunciation of this. And Google told me Siloam. And then you told me Siloam. Right? Yeah. So it's Siloam. All right, we're going to write it down again. Siloam Wellness, the executive director, Sarina DiBianca, is here today. Sarina, why don't we start with the pronunciation of the organization? Let's start with that. We just did that. Well, start with, I always say to my guests, and I asked you the other day when we had a quick phone call about this, many of my guests are drawn to nonprofit work. They're drawn to service work. They've been involved with service work. Maybe they didn't start there, but there's something that brought them there. Can you tell me your story, how you got involved with nonprofit in general, and then how you came to this organization?
Sure. I am an accountant, and I did what, accountants do, an accountant in heart. And so I would always start programs within the company that I worked for. I was the corporate controller of a publicly held company, and I started a program for returning citizens to get back to work. And so I always had my hand in people and how do I help them? And my uncle asked me to go to Ecuador and go into the rainforest. And it kind of correlates with your song that you have, that you play before we come on, which is the people, the earth, the planet, everybody is interconnected. So that's what we were going to Ecuador to learn about the rainforest and how everything is interconnected.
It's funny you bring that up. I want to give a shout out to our executive producer, Sam Leibowitz. That's actually the song that you're talking about. Is really, it lets people who are listening know that the live shows are about to begin. So it's interesting if you listen to the lyrics. If not, actually, maybe Kyle can give me the name of that song and we'll share it out. I'll put it on Facebook. And I've asked for it in the past and they've hooked me up with it, but I forgot what it is. But it's funny you bring this whole thing up, and especially the Ecuador thing. I mean, I got 1,000 questions about that whole scene, but we are connected, Sarina. This is like what I'm passionate about. We're supposed to be helping each other out. Like, enough of this nonsense, like, okay, yes, my hair's pulled back, but I'm a long hair hippie dude. Like, we're supposed to be freaking helping each other. Like, that's the deal. Enough of this nonsense, fighting. And, there's a very small group of people who win when we all fight and are on our adversarial, but the rest of us are losing because of it. We need to be aligned. So thank you for pointing out that song, Sam Leibowitz, and we'll share that with me, Sam, and Kyle, just so we can get that song out there for the people. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Ecuador. I mean, your uncle invited you to Ecuador. Like, just why?
Well, his wife was supposed to go, and then there came a conflict with her schedule. He called me and said, "Can you go?" And as it became aware to me very early on in the conversations that there were going to be these conference calls. It was before the day of Facebook, so it was about 10 years ago. And we were going to have these conference calls with people all from around the world. There were, I think, 10 of us that were going deep into the rainforest. And there were the billionaires from Australia, there were the millionaires from Malaysia, there were the millionaires from New York, and then there was me. And I said to myself, uh-oh, I don't fit. And I said to my uncle, how come you invited me? Why don't you invite your business partner, your wealthy friends? What are you inviting me for? And he goes, I don't know, you're the only person I thought of. You came to my mind, so I invited you. So speed up, we go and we stay with what is called the Achuar community. So it's an indigenous community living steep in the rainforest. And we were all supposed to have James Cameron, who had finished Avatar and wanted to go on this trip, but he had a conflict and wasn't able to make our trip. So those were the people I was traveling with. And I just said to myself, holy cow, I don't fit in this group of really wealthy people. So after we were there for several days, we had a shamanic ceremony, and the shaman spent a few minutes with everyone, and they're dream seekers. So when we were all done, and everything had to go up 3 languages, from English to Spanish and from Spanish to Achuar. And he got to me and he said, the spirit, which in how I think is God, Mother Nature, whatever you believe in, but the spirit brought my spirit here. That's my soul. Because the spirit wants you to go back and work with people. What does that mean?
Hold on a second. What a trip, first of all, right? And I don't just mean physically getting on a plane and going to the place. I mean a trip in another way. Some people are picking up what I'm putting down. But hold on a sec. Because you've told me this. I'm remembering when we first met and you told me this story. But they're going around like duck, duck, goose around the circle. And the spirit, when he starts to tell that he's a shaman, I mean, he's an elder, he's the Achwa, right?
Correct.
And he says, he pauses over you as this conversation goes.
Correct. And so we had to tell him our dream. So my dream was raindrops and butterflies and a rainbow. And he said to me, the raindrops are the spirit cleansing your spirit. The butterflies are the spirit letting your spirit free. And the rainbow is your spirit is to go wherever the rainbow takes you to do the spirit's work. Right?
I mean, right? I don't know, right? I mean, it sounds right on
If
to me.
that's not confusing, I don't cry much, and I'm bawling my eyes out thinking, I don't know what this means. What am I supposed to, like, I had no idea.
What were you doing at the time professionally? Were you still practicing as an accountant?
Correct.
So you go to this other part of the world where they probably, not to be offensive, but they probably don't even know accounting, right? Like that's not a thing when you get deep into the rainforest. Like, not that they don't know numbers, but you're not talking spreadsheets and debits and credits like deep in the rainforest. Yeah. So, and you're like, it must be like other earthly to be there.
Everything they do is off nature.
Right.
They don't even know what a phone is, that kind of so.
Wow. So you're coming back now, right? To whatever this other.
Well, actually, no, that's only half of the story. So we're there for 2 weeks, and then they take us to the Andes Mountains so we can kind of reacclimate ourselves back to modern society, to the modern world. And the Andes Mountains is, more of a typical, hotel in Ecuador. And we had a different shamanic ceremony with an absolutely different shaman who spoke a different indigenous language. Once again, goes around the circle, spends 2 minutes, gets to me, 20 minutes later, he verbatim in a different language told the same exact thing. Wow. The spirit brought my spirit there. There was now this shamanic ceremony was very different than the first one, but the message was the same. I start crying again. I look over to my uncle. He starts to cry. And he said, now I know why I was the only person, you were the only person I thought of, because I was just the conduit to get you here. So now my head blows up.
Hold that thought, because my mind is blown. People listening minds are blown, and we have to tease them.
My mind was blown.
Well, I get, and we are going to tease them. We're going to come back in 90 seconds. We're back in the Andes Mountains, second sort of shamanic experience, right? And the same result. This is the nonprofit show, but we're talking about connections at a much deeper level this morning. I want to get you that song. The name of the song I'm going to get with Sam Leibowitz. In fact, he texted me during the show just now. We'll get to that because it is right on brand with what we're talking about, and I'll get you all that song. This is Philanthropy in Focus. I'm Tommy D. Sarina D is here with me, and I'm sort of tingly and bugging out a little bit. I got to be honest with you. It's a conversation we're having. We'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
I mean, I'm feeling a bit of static this morning with this conversation. Where we're going? I mean, this is so cool. I just texted our friend Sam Leibowitz. We are all connected, and it's from the Symphony of Science. Is the song that we were talking about that Sarina was mentioning that sort of leads up. It's a song that we put it here on the network to alert folks that the live shows are about to begin. And it's Sam just had a commercial during the break there. He's the conscious consultant. And I think he would get a totally vibe. I don't know if you're listening, Sam, but I was just texting him to ask about the song because what a trip this is. Like you guys really need to connect, but that's all another thing.
I just wrote this down on my sticky. Sam Leibowitz.
Sam Leibowitz, the conscious
Awakening Humanity.
You heard him during the break, right?
Yeah, I did.
That's our buddy. So actually tell you a funny story about Sam. I know Sam probably from a networking perspective, maybe like, I don't know, 15 years or something, maybe 12 years. And he always told me I have this radio station. And for years, like I threatened that I was going to come down to the studio and like meet with him, and life didn't happen that way. So I had this idea about this show, and Sam and I networked together. And I said, I want to do this, but I don't want to do the heavy lifting. I want to have Sarina come on the show and we have a conversation and everything else is taken care of. And that's what Sam and his team do for me. So that's where I started this show January 8th of last year of 2021. So, all right. So we're in the Andes, back more of a developed area, right? We're not deep in the jungle anymore, in the rainforest. And the same message comes to you again. So what do we do with this data? What do we do with this information, Sarina?
Well, my head blew up for a solid year. I came home. I said to my husband, Joe, I have to change my career. I'm going into nonprofit. Told him the story. He's like, follow your heart.
Love it.
So I went to a couple different nonprofits, and each step I knew was a step in the right direction, but I also knew it wasn't where I was supposed to be. And then I was offered the job at Siloam. I knew nothing about people living with AIDS, but when I walked in, I knew it was where I was supposed to be. I knew this was the journey for me.
How did you get there? Because I know there's even a story like in that too, right? What was it?
Well, yeah, they offered me the job, and because I'm an accountant, I said, okay, I want to see the books, before I get into this. And they were $250,000 in debt. They didn't even have enough to last them one operating year. And I said, heck no, I can't do this. This is like insane. So I turned the job down. And then for the next 3 weeks, I couldn't sleep. So after 3 weeks, I worked at the Salvation Army at the time, and I was running a 3-day event for 900 kids with the 76ers basketball team. And I called up Sister Bernadette and I said, can I come in? My head and my heart are not aligned and I need help. And she said, sure. And she said, come in today. And I said, no, I'm running this event. I'll be in. So I went in and we just sat there for an hour. And I said, look, I know you've already offered the job to somebody, but maybe I can volunteer. I'll come in once a week. I'll sweep the floor. You don't ever have to tell the ED that you offered me the job. I just feel that I need to be there somehow, some way. I said, and since I always would say, all right, put me where I can be the most, where I can do the most good. And then I turned the job down. I said, did I not have enough faith in God? Did I not have enough faith in myself? Did I not have enough faith in both of us together? And I said, but this is where I need to be. And she laughed and she said, well, the executive director was going on vacation for 3 weeks and she called the psychologist, Brother Bob Thornton, and said, I can't believe she turned the job down. And he said, Jean, we haven't had an ED for 6 months. Go on vacation. When you get back, we'll start the search. And then Bern looked at me in her, true Sister Bern, way and said, God was just giving you 3 weeks to get your act together. So,
oh my God.
I'm here.
I mean, is Sister Bern still involved with the organization to this day?
She absolutely is. She just had her 80th birthday last week.
Yeah. Happy birthday, sister. Again, Chaminade High School, class of 1996, good Catholic high school boy. I wasn't always, I was a public school kid before that, but I always like to point it out when I think it's relevant. I look forward to meeting with the team. I want to come down to meet everybody. So Sister Bern, I look forward to breaking some bread with you, as they say. This is an incredible story. And obviously it was a calling, right? In that way where we get drawn to a mission and called to something. I
call it a leap of faith.
Leap of faith. Okay. Tell me about that.
It was a leap of faith because they had no money. I didn't know if in 6 months I was going to have a job.
Right. Yeah.
How do I fix the finances?
So tell me about the organization. You get there. You're supposed to be there, right? We both agree about that. And why were you supposed to be there? First, actually, before you answer that, you said something and I want to underscore it and shout out to a guy who I've not yet met in my life, although I imagine that I will meet Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about heart and head coherence. And when you said that, you said my heart and my head are not connected. You said something to that effect and made me think of Dr. Joe, going inside in the quantum field and all these different things, which I would say a student of, and maybe that's saying a lot, but I'm constantly trying to learn more about this stuff. So you were looking for that alignment, right? You were looking for that sort of connection. So was there something like, can you think of something like tangible that drew you to the programmatic work of the organization, aside from the attraction of it? Was there something specifically, if you look back, that you could say, this work is important to me because?
Nope.
No.
I instantly knew. I didn't know if I would get the job, but I instantly knew this is where I'm supposed to be. Don't know how, don't know why. Just knew.
How many years ago is that now?
4.
4 years. So let me go back. I want to tell everybody again. The organization was founded by Sister Bern. Sister, I'm not going to try and name your last name. I screwed it up once. Riley, I can get. So Father Don Riley. And 1995, really an approach to support people in the Philadelphia community living with HIV and AIDS by supporting people. I shout out my friend, Dr. Larry Grubler, CEO of Transitional Services for New York, TSINY, because he's my second ever guest on this program. And I always shout him out when we talk about support, because Sarina, we all need support at different times, at different levels of support, whether it be mental health issues, physical health issues, or, not to be silly, but sometimes we need a hug, and sometimes we need much more than a hug. But to support folks, this organization going through mental, emotional, physical, and supporting their spiritual well-being as well. So that's Siloam.
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. All right, gang. If you don't know, I've been trying to say the word right for like a week. So that's it. So Google's wrong. Sarina's right. I know how to say it now. So that's setting the stage for a big picture of the organization. What does it look like day in and day out, the work that gets done?
Well, the work is very different today than when we started out. And I think we have to remember that when we started, we were deep in the pandemic, the AIDS pandemic. And Father Don would get a phone call saying, hey, we have a gentleman who probably has 48 hours to live. We're going to send him home, but there is no home. Can he come to Siloam? And Father Don would bring him, put him in front of a fireplace, get him a hot cup of tea, and then try, because he was either gay, God forbid, or could have been a former drug addict, or whatever the person's, story and journey was. 9 times out of 10, they were ostracized from their family. And so Father Don would get on the phone and try to connect the family with their loved one before, he died. And they were very, very successful in doing that. So that's how they started putting in programs for people who, they were given a death sentence, and what did that look like? And how do we keep people, emotionally and spiritually well during that journey? Today, it's not the death sentence. We have many, many people with us who have lived through that pandemic, have been long-term survivors. And this is a disease where every day they live one day longer is one day longer nobody ever expected them to live, right? So we deal with what we call survivors, but really they're thrivers, right? Because a survivor to me is somebody that's just getting by, just surviving. And these people are taking the world by the reins and saying, look, I've made it, and there's something for me to show and tell. So we run on a complete volunteer staff. Our volunteers are the backbone of what we do. It's not me, it is all of us. We just have amazing people.
Like on a monthly basis, how many volunteers are involved with the organization?
Well, we have about 25 volunteers. Yeah, we have, 3 Reiki masters. We have a Tai Chi, Qigong master. We have Pilates. We've got it all. Sister Burns still does spiritual retreat with people. She does, spiritual guidance with people. We call it healthy living, because even though we were started by a priest and a nun, we're non-religious, and we take anybody from anywhere.
Healthy living. I like that. I just think too, Sister Byrne, I'd love to talk to you soon, because just the evolution that you've seen in the Catholic Church, in the church in all these years, like. Are
you going to get her in trouble?
No, I'm probably getting myself in trouble right now. No, but I'm
She's a renegade.
Is she a renegade?
For sure. So, think about it. They went to the church and they said, we want to do this. And the church at the time didn't support being gay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not going to get you in trouble, sister. I mean, you have a connection to somebody that you're definitely connected, probably closer than I am. But I will shout out my friend, Sister Tisa Fitzgerald as well, who runs an organization in Long Island City, Queens called Our Children, HOUR. And it's representative of the hour when a mother becomes incarcerated and loses that relationship with her children. It's the hour that the mom gets to see the child while she's incarcerated. And then it's the hour that the mom is released. And they do incredible work with these women. And they transitional housing and educational assistance. And they're actually a client of ours. We do their insurance work. But it's a really, really special organization. And again, another renegade. I mean, Sister T was a CNN hero a number of years ago. So I look forward to just kind of, like I say, chatting it up with Sister Byrne and folks, because I want to learn.
I see a lot of synergy. I see a lot of work we can do together with.
Yeah. I'd love to. Yeah, we could set that up. I mean, Philadelphia and Queens are not so far apart, to be honest. Let's be honest here. We do root for different teams, but not so far apart.
Well, everything we do now is on Zoom, so we're
So
really
true.
not that far apart.
So true. I mean, I haven't left an attic in 2 years. I do have to leave the show for a minute so we can go to a quick break, but we will be back. And I want to learn about the day in the life. I mean, you said Reiki, healthy living with Sister Byrne. That should be like a show, sister. Maybe you should do a show called Healthy Living with Sister Byrne. I'm Tommy D. Show's called Philanthropy and Focus. We'll be right back.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
I'll tell you a funny story, Sarina. The gentleman who wrote that song and who's singing that song is a very good friend of mine, Brendan Levy. And I love this man. So I call him Uncle Brendan, and I've called him Uncle Brendan because I care about him and he's older than I am. So I was like, well, you don't look anything like me, so I can't call you Dad. So I'm going to call you Uncle Brendan, right? So I'm on a phone call with Uncle Brendan the other day, and I said, I have one of my sons with me who actually it's his birthday today. And I had him in the car with me, and I go, hey, say hi to Uncle Brendan. So he says, he's 7. He goes, are you really our uncle? Like, what's the story? Like, are you our uncle? So I had to tell him, he's not our uncle, but he's like family. So Brendan wrote that song for me. I sort of say it's like a Lennon and McCartney thing. We sort of wrote the lyrics together, because the whole rhyming static with attic, I think we played around with that for a little while. But so that's Brendan singing the song. And he actually was the one who introduced me. Story comes full circle to Sister Tisa Fitzgerald over at Our Children Again. So kind of this all interconnected piece of things. I'm looking at the website. So I have a couple questions. Looking at the website, and the website is Siloam Wellness.org. All right. Because if I said it, you wouldn't know how to spell it anyway. So I figured I'd spell it out for everybody. Siloam Wellness.org. And I'll also share it on the Facebook as well. I was going to say the Facebook link. So it's the Facebook link. The HIV stigma. I mean, I was born in 1978. So I remember being scared growing up about what this was. And I think probably an entire generation of people were scared of what this was. I mean, people were dying. Many people were sick. There's still a stigma around this conversation.
Absolutely. We have a gentleman who, right before COVID, came to us in hysterics, straight from the hospital. He had gone to the hospital because he was sick, wasn't feeling well, was in his gown. And when the ER doc walked in with the nurse, he said, get your effing SHIT stuff on and get out of here. I don't see your kind. Now, my friend was
during COVID. This is just happening.
Right before COVID. So 2 years ago, right before COVID. And so he said, what? Not because he didn't hear him, but because like it couldn't set in. And the doctor repeated and said, get your effing SHIT on and get out of here. I don't see your kind. So humiliated. You know, if you look back, it's easy for us to say, I would have said, get me another doc. I'm not doing that. But when you're the one who has just been humiliated, who has just been, you know, ostracized and just put down, your first reaction is, let me get my stuff and go.
Get out of here.
Well, immediately the nurse called and apologized, you know, and he had the doctor's name. He and I are going to do a segment about what happened to him. But that still happens in 2 years ago, you know, so 2020, that happened to him.
So this
people go to dinner for Thanksgiving and everyone gets china and you get a paper plate, a paper fork, and a paper cup. Because if you eat on this in this day and age.
God, you know, that's just, the word that's coming from me up is ignorance.
Correct.
Mean, you know,
correct.
Like, I mean, where's the education on this? We're 35, 40 years into this. We're still.
I mean, listen, when I first took the job, I had so many people say to me, aren't you afraid to hug them? I'm like, what? No, I'm not afraid to hug them. Anyway, the stigma is real, true, and horrible.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I was looking through, I was on LinkedIn early this morning. I mentioned this to you before we started the show today, the 2022 Philadelphia Award. Tell me about that. And yes. I mean, you guys are in Philly proper, outside of Philly. Where exactly is the organization?
We're in Philly proper. We're on 11th and Parish. Okay. The award was just blew me away. I had no idea about it. Super proud because of the programs we do. The programming we do is wonderful. One of our major agendas now is educating teens. The largest age group contracting the virus right now is 13 to 24. So that's your 8th graders.
Yeah, say that again, because I don't think people realize that. And I knew it because I asked you last week and I did a quick video about it. But that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. 13 babies we're talking about.
8th graders. So it's your 8th graders, your high schoolers, college and grad students, 13 to 24. It's everybody who's invincible. As we know, when we were that age, we were invincible. And nobody talks about AIDS anymore. Nobody talks about HIV. So the young kids don't even know about it, don't even think about it. And then we can give you some statistics. Philadelphia is 5 times the national city average. So if you live in Philly, the HIV and AIDS rate is 5 times higher than LA, Detroit, Manhattan. Now, Pennsylvania on a whole is low, but Philadelphia, it's off the hook.
Is that from your assessment or from what you know, is that drug use? Is it promiscuity? Is it just lack of protection in, you know, what is it if you can?
It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
So,
and nobody also realizes that it's a sexual network. So if you're having unprotected sex for the very first time, but the person you're having unprotected sex with has had unprotected sex 10 times, then you just extrapolate those numbers and you're now having unprotected sex with 100 people.
So I remember growing up, so I'm born in 78. So I'm 10, 11, 12 in 88, 89, 90, becoming aware of the world. I remember the commercials like that. That would I don't remember them specifically, but the idea of that, and maybe it was just education in school at the time too, that I'm recalling, but it was like 2 people and 2 people and 2 people, like that was that, like that's not spoken of anymore. That those sort of things are not educated on unless it's an organization. I'm not really saying that, I'm asking you in your experience, that awareness is not there. And when the organization comes in, is that these are types of conversations you'll go into the school systems and have?
Yeah. So so we put on sporting events because I was interviewed and somebody asked me, what do you want for Siloam? And I said, I'd love Siloam to go out of business, not because we don't have any money, but because the disease has been eradicated. And then I thought to myself, how do I do that? How do I be part of that change? How do I be a change agent in that? So going into a school and talking to kids about HIV, they're just going to go click. They're not going to listen to a word I have to say. So I have teamed up with some pro athletes. So I have former 76er Jermaine Jones, and he helped me, and Coach Phil Martelli, formerly of St. Joe's, he's now with Michigan. And we put together this thing called Full Court Press for Awareness. So it's a 3-point shootout, age groups, get the kids there, film them, have fun, bring pro athletes, talk to them, and then educate them on HIV. But most importantly, you're not only talking to the kid, but you're talking to their parent. And the most important person to talk to is their coach, because they, teenagers think their parents don't know anything. They think their parents are dumb, but they do admire and listen to their coaches. So when the coaches get that information, and that's the coach's aha moment, like, holy cow, I should be talking to my students about this, then that conversation just continues to build.
Wow. Excuse me. I mean, deputizing the coaches as these change agents, right? Giving them the information that they need, because to your point, they're going to look to the coach. And again, being a father, I realize that my children think I don't know much of anything. And my expectation is as they turn in teenagers, they'll probably be pretty confident that I don't know anything. So that's, but that's really, really important. And, the word I'm going to use might have a negative connotation, but the angle of utilizing and leveraging the athletics, I think it's genius. It's kind of, my buddy Mick Collins just put a basketball here in the chat on Facebook, shout out to Mick, big support of the show. I see that. And during COVID, I see the opportunity with the athletics. Were you limited during COVID to what you were able to do to access the athletes and get that information out there? Did you have to change things a bit?
Well, let me step back. When March 15th happened and the world closed down as we knew it due to COVID, within 4 days, I had every one of our programs, our Reiki, our Pilates, every group class that we did, our Tai Chi, we were up on Zoom. Doing that prior to COVID, we were a little, holistic mind, body, and spiritual wellness center in Philly. But with that and breaking that open, I now have people that join in from Rwanda, Africa, from Germany, and all over the United States. So Siloam instantly became global because of the pandemic. So not that I'm happy that there's a pandemic here, but it certainly broadened the spectrum for who can come and seek Siloam's help. It's now to anyone who has a phone or a computer.
I of course, neither one of us would applaud that there's a pandemic, right? That's
correct.
An obvious statement, but I'm going to go out on a limb because this might sound a little bit incorrect, but there's some silver linings, right? Maybe that's a bit much. There's just some things that have changed, some opportunities that have come out of that. I mean, I know it from a business perspective. I know it from the fact that, as it kind of make a joke, my car was over on the mileage, and then it wasn't because it didn't leave the front of my house for a year and a half. But strategically, from a nonprofit perspective, I see it in a lot of ways where galas now, a lot of either the hybrid gala, which has become, very the ubiquitous term, right? Hybrid, but also just the programming that is now done through Zoom or otherwise, as you said. I mean, as far as Rwanda, you Sister Byrne, Father Don couldn't have dreamt about how are we going to serve these people in Rwanda unless we get on a plane and go there, right? And now the whole thing and the impact is big. impact, the people served by the programs and the organization are much bigger. We actually have to take one last break. When we come back, though, I want you to share with me some of the upcoming events. If you have anything going on with Jermaine Jones or any of the other stuff, the athletes or Coach Martelli, or who can we connect you with? Who are you looking to meet, Sarina? Who are the right people, whether they be Philly or otherwise? All right, cool. This is Philanthropy in Focus. I'm your buddy, Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector. We'll be right back.
Join us every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern for the Mind Behind Leadership, where we focus on what leadership really means to us and to others. We have practical discussions with the CEOs of some of the world's largest companies, owners of small businesses, and experts in psychology and behavior to get that inside track, what to do, what to avoid, and what really happens. Join me, Graham Dobbin, at the new time, 4 p.m. every Tuesday for the Mind Behind Leadership, here live on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Many buttons to hit on Zoom. I was like, I'm on Zoom all day, Sarina, and I'm like looking to go to the share screen in the chat box when I really wanted the unmute button. So very confusing. I 15 Zoom meetings a day for 2 years. You think you'd figure this stuff out, but I'm just a work in progress like all of us. All right, so this is Philanthropy in Focus. Sarina D and Tommy D in the attic. This is the lightning round portion of the show. What's going on with the organization going forward? Who can I or my network connect you with, and what does the organization need?
Well, what is a stumbling block within the organization is what we do is holistic, mind, body, and spiritual wellness. Now, we do have 2 psychologists who run trauma support group, and Brother Bob, who's been with us from the onset, who runs our HIV support group, but they work for the church. So they don't have Medicaid IDs, even though they are psychologists. He's an Augustinian brother. So what we do, even though we see people, but because they don't have a Medicaid ID, we can't be billed. Therefore, we get no federal or state funding for what we do. So then there's the stigma, and people don't like to donate to something that they see is with their own lens of, possibly being narrow-minded, so they see this disease different than somebody who has cancer or somebody who has diabetes, because there's the blame and the shame that goes along with it. That being said, we never have enough money. So we put on programs to educate, and everything Siloam does runs off of donors and grants. So what my ask would be for today is, obviously we need donors, but we also I would love to hook up with other former athletes who believe in this mission. We have hooked up with football, and last year I was involved in what is called Legends Football Camp, and it was run by Isaac Redman, who was a former Pittsburgh Steeler, and Kevin Ross, who is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's their cornerback coach. And they ran this program, 300 kids. I was there, helped them, run it and be able to talk to those kids. So we've got football, we've got basketball. What other sports, what other pro athletes or local teams would love to get involved in what we do and how we can educate kids? And the last thing that I would ask for is there is a contract in Philadelphia called a Community Partnership Act, where it is meant for health insurance companies to partner with small nonprofits. So because we can't get paid for what we do through the city, if we keep someone living with HIV and AIDS healthy and we get them to be emotionally healthy, they will follow their medical protocol. So that blend of Eastern and Western medicine is the collaboration that everyone is looking for. Because if I feel I'm not worthy of getting better because I was a drug addict, or society tells me based on my zip code, I'm no good, or because I am in the LGBTQ, community, society gives you these negative connotations. And Siloam's there to tell you that's all baloney, and that's society's issues, and that you were made exactly how you were meant to be. And how do we honor your journey? So your journey that was yesterday, you may have been a drug addict, but look at you today. You're clean, you're sober, and you deserve to be honored for who you are today. And how do we make your tomorrow better than yesterday? So in doing all of this, I've got Temple, Einstein, Jefferson, those 3 hospitals send me their HIV patients that they know are emotionally and spiritually broken. I've got the nonprofits in the city that do clinical work send me their people, but then I have no way to get reimbursement for that. So this Partnership Act, if I partner with, and we have a contract with United Healthcare. So United Healthcare will send me their people and say they have a diagnosis of HIV, diabetes, cancer, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, smoking cessation, all of these things. They'll send me their people, because if I can help make them emotionally and spiritually whole, they will follow their medical protocol, which then keeps them out of the hospital and keeps them in our exercise classes, in our, trauma support groups, in our HIV support groups, in our Tai Chi class for exercise. And then you're a healthier, more rounded individual that you are proud of yourself. And you're going to stay out of the hospital a lot more than when you didn't believe in yourself. So we have been working with other healthcare providers to try to get a same contract. And then I would bill them, they would bill the city would reimburse them, and they'd pay me. So it's a pass-through for someone like United Healthcare, Keystone Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, it would be a pass-through for them. It wouldn't cost them any money for us to help. So we only have the one contract of United Healthcare, and I would love to have more.
So, all right. So I don't talk too much about what I do professionally, but we own an employee benefits agency, again, called the Vanguard Insurance Agency. I'm currently studying for registered employee benefits certification, REBC certification in the space. I'm learning more and more about wellness and these types of programs that similar to what you're referring to. We are going to run out of time before we run out of stuff to say, which is sort of the policy on the show here. But yeah. I want to. There's precedent though with UHC here. This is already happening. So programmatically, the thing exists. It's just a matter of bringing this thing to some of the other carriers and companies, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
and it's all, and just to clarify, it's only for people on Medicaid, and Siloam's clientele, 91% live below the poverty line. So everything we do is for free because we need to get in front of that population that doesn't have anywhere else to turn to.
Again, something else you said about certain populations based on your zip code. I mean, there's so much here to really dive into, and we're not going to be able to do it today, but
Well, I'll come back.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time, Sarina D. Don't do it. All right. Here's the thing about it, though. I would love for you to come back, and we will work that out. And I told you this morning before we went live, I have this other idea for a whole nother show, and it's called Important Conversations with Tommy D. It doesn't even exist yet, but neither did Philanthropy and Focus a bunch of years back. So, and these are important conversations that we're having. So I want to talk to you more about the carrier thing. I want to talk to you more about the insurance thing. We'll do it offline. We'll talk about that. I want to give, just a quick announcement of next week on the show. Renee and Andy Van Heel from Every Swipe Benefits Charity will be here, which is a 501c3 that gives businesses a philanthropic arm while providing a fundraising platform to charities through credit card processing. My friend Mick Collins, who's a big fan of the show, good friend of mine, is always checking in and helping me out behind the scenes here. Like when I don't know an answer to something, Mick will put the answer in the chat. Mick is a representative of this company, and he has this awesome opportunity. He gets to go around the country giving out the big checks to nonprofit organizations. We're going to hear about how business aligns with nonprofit when Andy and Renee are here with me in the attic next week. Every week we do this from 10 to 11 a.m. Sarina, I can't say thank you more than I'm so appreciative of you being here. Shout out to Fred Taffer, because if it's not for my buddy Fred making this connection, none of these things happen. Sister Byrne, I am thrilled to meet you in person very soon. As soon as I get down to the city of sisterly and brotherly love, I will be down soon. I have 2 daughters, so make sure you got to throw that sisterly love in there too, not just brotherly love. Sarina,
I love being in the attic. I never thought I'd say that, but I love being in the attic.
I welcome you to my attic, and you're always welcome back. Say what else you got to say before we go.
I'd like to say thank you to all of our volunteers who put out their time, their love, and their goodwill to help our teachers, the people that are living with HIV and AIDS. So thank you to all of them for their trust.
Thank you to all the volunteers. Volunteering is critical. I appreciate. We're going to end the stigma around this disease.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you, Sarina. We're going to end the stigma around HIV and AIDS. We're going to end the stigma around mental health issues. I'm here to do whatever I can. I think I got 50 years left to go, so I'm going to work them the best I can.
You and me both.
I'll see you all later on. Kyle, thanks for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Connections to move in good directions. Cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.